And welcome back to another edition of Running with James. I'm your host, James Wyatt, and I'm excited to be here with you once again. Joined as usual with Lauren to my right, Coach Carlos to my left, becoming a staple, as it were, on the podcast. Entrenched. He will not leave. I did not even invite him today.
I'm pretty sure that he's already written his name on the chair somewhere.
My butt groove's in it.
Okay.
So it's fully grooved in.
Yeah.
And so
it's done.
It's not going to be right for anyone else.
Yeah, like a tick.
I mean, we can get a new chair. It's not a big deal.
With the cushion.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen that video of it was like on a Carnival cruise, and the lady she didn't purchase the trip to go into the land.
Mm-hmm.
She was on the boat, and heavier lady, dead weight. They took like 3 guys to carry her out. So expect that scene. If you guys want me out, you're gonna have to drag her. Yeah, I'm just gonna go dead weight, and you guys have to drag me.
How is that? I've always wondered about that. Like, how is it that something that weighs 100 pounds, when it goes dead weight, it becomes 150 pounds? You know what I'm saying?
Probably because the weight. It's not
distribution.
It's just your head's
like
heavier.
Picking up sandbags.
There's no support, I guess. There's no one's supporting themselves kind of up. So yeah,
it's
picking up a sandbag.
Yeah. The science behind it is fascinating to me. I think we should do some research.
Because if you think about what you might push or lift at the gym, you're like, well, I know I can lift this, but
right. But if my daughter goes limp,
she got
I automatically throw my back out.
Yes. No. I mean, my puppy Snoop, he's about 70 pounds.
Oh, is he dead weight on you?
Oh no, he will if you want him off, he just becomes dead weight. I'll start pushing him, and it's like concrete.
Literally, he just sucks his butt into the whatever's on it.
No, nothing. He just complete dead weight. Will not move an inch. Just dead body. I'll start pushing him. Just his legs will start shifting back, and he just will not move.
Nice. So that's awesome. Well, guys, thanks for coming in today. We appreciate you. We are here today, and it's a special day. Actually, it's a crazy day. Every time we turn on the news or something amazing's happening, something crazy, something insane. Today, Faith Kipyegon, did you guys see that today? Went out to break the 4-minute mile record.
I only know because it was blowing up on our group chat. That's how unaware I was of that.
I saw it.
Yeah, I watched it.
But you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. It was good. It was intense.
It was cool. The whole event, how it was set up with the Pacers, the lights around the track.
Yeah.
It was all.
I like those events where they do the lights on the track. That's pretty cool. I'd like to get some of that action.
Is it the lights where they pace, they go with you?
Yeah. And it'll show you what the world record is or what the time is. So it was pretty neat to watch and kind of have the Pacers out there. So it was really cool to see them. So she ended up getting a world record, 4:06, I think, something like that. So, which she had the world record before.
Yeah.
So she beat her own world record, got a PR. So she didn't break the 4-minute barrier, but I mean, they're close.
4:06 miles is so fast.
It is.
It's so fast.
It is.
And the thing is, what I really, like you said, watching the Pacers, even her, just how their run form, they look so smooth.
Man.
I mean, she's,
Yeah, the Pacers look like they were just jogging.
Yeah, they're
just out there.
Yeah, just arms, just relaxed.
Yeah.
Their stride. Even the announcer made a comment of she was watching her knees.
Yeah.
Her knees were
driving, coming up. Yeah.
Driving up. She's like, that's, telltale sign that they're getting tired if the knees don't come up. So I found that all pretty interesting.
Well, what she was addressing is the form, right? The form would be falling apart, right? So, but yeah, I think they even mentioned her arms at one point. I think she said, "Oh, there go her arms."
Oh, okay.
And so her arms were swinging more, and that she was trying harder.
Yeah,
right. She was working harder. So, but it was neat. It was a neat event. It was really cool. So, so they'll get it. She'll get it. Some lady will get it pretty soon. It's not going to take long. So, they're so close. I mean, in the mile, 6 seconds is a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
6 seconds is a lot.
Yeah.
But I think she probably could have. It's like oftentimes you can go and prepare and be ready, and it just may not be your day.
Yeah,
Something may be off a little bit. Your sleep, what you ate, whatever, and she might be able to go and try in a week and smash it.
Yeah.
One of those things. So they'll just keep chipping away at it. Somebody's going to do 4:05, and somebody's going to do 4:03, and then
it's broken.
It's going to be broken, right? And people are going to go nuts.
Go ladies.
Yeah. Women power.
I think Jess will break it. That's what I'm rooting for. Hear that, Jess? I'm rooting for you.
2027. Your year.
That's it.
Yeah. The year is sub 4. Let's hit that sub 3 first on the marathon. How about that? Talking to you, Jess.
Goals.
So, but it made me actually think, just watching it, it got me thinking because it looked a lot like Sunday. Did you feel that? Did you kind of look at it and think the same way?
Yeah, we're running in a pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, like a pack of just wildebeest.
Yes, just wildebeest.
But I think the thing that made me think about it the most was like she was one lady going for this goal, but there was like 15 people running with her.
Mm-hmm.
So she had like a whole team of people around her. And that's how her training was too. But like just to pace her, to break the wind, you know, to kind of motivate her and stuff like that, kind of make it feel like a race environment too. There was a whole group of people helping take her to this place.
Yeah, they especially had people in the back.
They even had people behind her.
That was in their, you know, position. They each had their positions to be. There was people in the back, kind of like you said, simulating a race.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. And, you know, I think a lot of runners, a lot of athletes in general, whether you're a runner or HYROX athlete, whatever, a lot of people do a lot of training alone. And they find a lot of, I don't know what the word would be, but because I don't do it and I don't like it, but they seem to find a lot of positives out of doing training by themselves. Or they seem to find a lot of, I guess, maybe gains or something from doing that. But I'm the more I train, the more I believe that if you're going to do amazing things, if you're going to break records, if you're going to do something outside your capability, you're going to have to train with other people.
Training in solace. I can't train in solace for long.
I've done it. You know, when I traveled, I would train, you know, in solitude by myself. And that was just you know, my
what you had to do.
Yeah, there was no one else wanting to train with me, you know, where I was working. So, no, but I do find the benefits, especially on days where you don't have the motivation or maybe you're a little bit lacking. Your training partner or people out there will push you.
Well, like today, you know, I was in solace today on my run all by myself. It was a great run. You know, it was like 91 degrees outside, plenty of humidity. And that was at 7:00 in the morning, you know, so it was nice being out there by myself, not having anyone to talk to. It seemed to take a long time.
Did you do trails?
I did.
Okay.
I did. But it seemed to take a long time.
No music, nothing?
Well, I was shooting a shoe review, some video for a shoe review.
Okay.
Right. So that may take a little bit longer too. But still, even with that,
it just felt
very lonely.
Well,
all by myself.
I told Gabby and Luce, but Luce had to go to work early.
Yeah. No, I knew they weren't coming.
They pitched you.
And that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. That's okay.
It's noted.
It's okay. So they wouldn't have ran the whole thing with me anyway.
No, true.
Gabby sent me her run and she only ran like 2 miles or something. So I mean, there was no point in driving all the way over here to come run 2 miles. Right. So it's okay. It's okay. Eventually people will be back.
They'll love you again.
They'll love me again. Yeah. Or they'll need me. They'll feel like they need me again.
Right. Well, I forgot. Big congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
20 years.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, wait, I wasn't sure if you knew when he was congratulating.
I had no idea. Okay. It's like, there's so many things to celebrate.
Just celebrating you.
The video was very cute.
Yeah.
That first photo of y'all's wedding photo is always very cute.
Yeah.
Y'all look just so young and baby-faced.
Yeah, because we're 25 years old.
Babies.
Oof. 25 years old.
Glasses, were they like Slurpees?
Say again?
What were in your glasses? Were they like Slurpees? They looked like slushies.
Lauren, it was 20 years ago. I don't know.
You don't remember every detail of your wedding?
Nobody remembers every detail of the wedding. Actually, nobody remembers anything of their wedding. That's why a wedding is such a waste of money. You should just elope and spend the money on a great trip that you are going to remember.
Not going to argue with you on that one.
Preach.
So, I don't know. It was probably some kind of like pina colada thing or something. I don't know. The only thing I can tell you for sure, there was no alcohol in it.
Oh, okay.
That's all I can tell you for sure. So, but yeah, that was a whirlwind of a day. A whirlwind of a day.
It was quick.
It did go quick.
Yeah.
Actually, during the reception, I was having the time of my life. I was having so much fun because I was married. I was getting married. I had gotten married. You know, one to spend the rest of my life with. You know, and with all our friends, they get to enjoy it, right? And we're doing our reception, and I don't know how long we'd been there. It wasn't very long because we had to take photos, and everybody was over there while we were doing photos, right? For however long that took. And then we got over there and we cut the cake and did whatever. And then my dad's like, "Hey, man, everybody's waiting for you to leave before they go anywhere." I'm like, huh? I'm like, what? I didn't even think. I was like, because like there was so much going on. So I was like, okay, I guess we can go then. I didn't even look at the time. We did whatever. And so we had the car set up in the outside, and we had gotten like this antique car, like the doors, like kind of suicide doors.
Okay.
And so everybody was out there throwing and everything. Then we got in the car, and I didn't even think about it until like a couple weeks later. I was like, that dude wanted to go home. He was ready to go. And so he put pressure on me saying everybody else is ready to go.
Who was it? Yeah.
My dad.
Oh, your dad.
Yeah. Or pastor.
Pastor.
Yeah.
It's past bedtime.
I get it. I mean, I'm at that age now.
Yeah.
How old was he then?
Shoot, I don't know, 40 something, I guess, 45 or so.
Well, I get it.
Yeah. He's my age.
Yeah,
he's the age I am now. Yes.
You understand it now.
I understand.
Let's get the show on the road.
Let's go, bro. Get out of here.
Now you
get back to the house.
That 25-year-old blood in him. He's ready to, I always see that meme. If you see a 40-year-old out past 9 p.m.,
Yeah.
they took a nap.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's nice.
100% true.
That's nice. So, but yeah, it's been an awesome 20 years. It's been a lot. It's crazy to think about when you look over like that time span. Like, number one, it doesn't seem like 20 years. Like, it just like has been a flash for the most part. But like all the things, and even the last say 5 to 10 years, right, has gone by so quickly, and all that we've done together and seen and struggled through and stuff like that.
20 years. It's just easy. It was easy peasy, right? No, that's what people don't realize. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Actually, we had my wife. She was, I don't know if I should even say this on the podcast. I don't think this chick listens, so it's okay. Not my wife, the person I'm about to talk about. So she left the other day, and somebody came here, and she was like, where's Leah? And I was like, oh, she's not here. She was here a minute ago. So I texted her. I was like, hey, where you at? Thought you were going to run or work out or do something with somebody. She's like, I came home. I'm not happy. I was like, oh, okay. So when I got home, I was like, what's going on? Why'd you leave? So she went down the list. It was like the freaking floodgates were open, and she let me know why. And somebody was just voicing to her about like she has struggles with trust and stuff like that, and that she wants her to share with her, which I get that. I understand that. She's like, but you never talk about like you and James's marriage, and you don't ever like, confide in us and stuff. And Leah was like, well, I confide in my husband. Like, if I have something going on with my husband, I talk to my husband about it.
Some people are just private people.
And he does the same exact thing. So we don't go to other people to talk about our spouse.
Our business isn't out in the streets.
Right. There's no need for it.
There's no reason for that.
If we have an issue, then we'll go talk to our pastor,
yeah,
or our parents, or somebody that we, trust to get counsel if that's something we feel like we need. But first and foremost, we always try to start like in our home, right? So we try to work it out together, and communicate with one another. And the last thing we would ever do is say something, negative about the other person, unless of course it's a jest.
Absolutely.
Like my husband never takes out the trash, which is a lie.
I'm about to say that's not my household.
No, that's a lie. I take it out at least once every 3 weeks.
Such a gentleman. I mean, ladies.
I'm a man of the people. So, but just like we've gone through a lot of stuff. We've gone through some struggles. We've gone through some tough times. I mean, we've had times where she was sick or struggling to have children. We wanted to have kids and we couldn't have kids. We had times where like we didn't know how our mortgage was going to get paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were like, man, are they going to come pick up this car or something? There's been some struggles in our life, and it's hard to think about all that kind of stuff and how we've made it through and how we've gotten better with talking to one another and communicating and handling our finances and stepping out in faith and stuff like that, and not worrying about things that we can't control. Like, that has been a very long process. And I honestly don't think I could have done it if she wasn't in my life. So like, I'm very, very thankful for that, very appreciative of that. So when a man finds a good woman, finds a good thing,
Don't let him go.
Don't let him go. Keep him on lockdown. Knock him up. That's what I did. Took 12 years, but I got it. Finally got him.
Got him. It took a little longer.
It took a little longer, but at 12 years, I could finally say, got him. You can't leave me, Leah.
That's it.
So, but she's a strong.
Yeah, you don't want to start over at this point.
No.
It's a terrible, terrible place to start over.
No, I wouldn't be starting over. I told someone the other day, I was like, if something happened and somehow by some crazy happenstance I found myself single, that would be the end of it.
My friend who's going through divorce said that she's going through divorce, and she's obviously like not even kind of thinking about dating because it's very, very fresh. And she's like, honestly, maybe this is just the divorce talking, but I think I'd be fine with just being alone.
It probably is the divorce talking because
she has 2 kids. She also wants to focus on her kids.
Sure.
So, and I said, when your kids get a little older, you might change your mind, but yeah, just do you for the next like 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
I just think it's, if they're, no, I'm not going to say that. Maybe on the Patreon, I might say it. I might get canceled if I say what I'm thinking right now. So.
All right, we'll wait for it.
Thank you. So just remind me later.
I'll remind you.
Thank you.
All right.
She's not going to remind me. You remind
I'll be
me.
waiting to cancel you.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about you. I'm not worried about you.
We'll be ready to protest.
I'll be ready with my sign.
The left has spoken.
So speaking of 20, all right, that's actually what we're talking about today. Not 20 years, but 20%.
Hard effort.
The hard effort, right? So if you've been listening to the podcast for any extended time, if you come to our gym, if you have watched any of our training videos on YouTube, you've heard us mention the words 80-20.
Often.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And even if you're part of some other training program, you've probably heard some concept of 80-20. And I don't think people really understand what it is. I think they hear the words and like, oh, yeah, 80-20. But I don't think they actually truly understand what 80-20 is. I know they don't know what the 80 is.
No.
Yeah. I don't think most people, I think people know what the term is. They've heard it, but I don't think most people like know how to differentiate a hard effort versus an easier effort.
So how would you explain 80-20?
80-20, 80% of your workout should be zone 2 aerobic efforts, easier efforts, and 20% should be like threshold max efforts, where the way I personally gauge it is the easier workouts are, give me a little bit of break. I could probably go and repeat it, do it again. The really hard ones, they steal my soul a little bit and I might crawl out of the gym.
Okay.
Might cry a little.
How would you define it?
Kind of similar.
Yeah.
Same thing. Just like,
ditto.
Ditto. No, just exactly what she said. I kind of mix up my efforts as far as like a hard effort. I try never to follow up 2 hard efforts. Like
okay.
I won't
do back-to-back hard.
I won't go like our, Thursday hard HYROX workout. I won't ever do like unless I have to for whatever scheduling purpose, do like my speed training the next day.
Oh, that'd be rough.
Yes, I've done it before. Just something happened and just my body will feel the difference versus breaking those 2 efforts up with an easy run.
Yeah.
Just or a light, moving the body workout, nothing heavy. So those kind of how you stack your workouts of the easy versus hard can change the week up drastically versus doing hard, then just kind of doing easy runs. It'll just break your body, not allow it to recover.
Gotcha. Yeah. So 80%, it strictly has to do with building a foundation. That's the way I look at it, right? So the foundation is the core of everything you do. So if you don't have a good foundation, then everything you try to build on top of it is very suspect. I could crumble at any time. It's what leads to injuries, fatigue, plateauing, whatever, right?
Like Jenga blocks, when you just have a couple blocks on the bottom and you keep stacking them up top and it's gonna...
I don't even know. You shouldn't have said that.
What?
Because I saw this video of this guy who was like trying to break a Guinness World Record of Jenga blocks and he built the Leaning Tower of Pisa and it was like taller than this room.
Oh, wow.
And there was a reporter interviewing him and he had a cord that was going to the cable and he was walking around it to like look at it and the cord hit it and it just came tumbling down. The guy just like busted into tears. He literally had said, yes, the Guinness Book of World Records will be here next week to verify. And he's like, well, let's take a look at this thing. And he walks around and just, and the guy just was just in complete disbelief. And the reporter's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I just left.
I'm so sorry. And then he looks at, he's like, well, that's it for today. I was like, dude, you might be dying. I don't know. That's a lot of work.
I will be looking that up after this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to look that up.
It was really good stuff. So, but yeah, so it's all about that foundation. And so and science backs this up as well, but you're better off having a large foundation of easy stuff and making sure you have a good foundation of that and focusing on that more than doing a bunch of hard stuff. It'll benefit you more. Okay. But at a point, once you establish a good foundation of aerobic capacity, then you do need to add in some of that 20%, that hard stuff, right? So now what that number is, I think it's different for every person. I think even opinion might even come into it. But for me, like usually if you're one of my athletes, if you're not at 20 miles a week, I'm not giving you speed work. because you're not at a point, honestly, aerobically, where the benefit of doing 2 miles of speed work a week is going to really help you all that much.
And you actually push that hard for that long.
Exactly.
You haven't built up that capacity.
You really haven't, right? Other than doing maybe some short intervals or some strides, you don't really have a volume enough, a base big enough to justify it. So you're better off just, you know what, let's build this aerobic capacity, you know? So, you know, and then also it kind of goes with the whole, the rule is like, if you're doing 80-20, well, that's just simple math. So if you're doing 10 miles a week, well, then that technically means 2 miles of that could be like hard speed work, right? And 8 miles of that would need to be easy. So, I mean, 2 miles, you know, running fast, like you're talking, you know, depending on what the workout is, you know, you're talking maybe 12 minutes, 15 minutes of like actual speed work. Like you're probably better off taking those 2 miles and having that be aerobic, ultimately making you more fit and less likely to be injured.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, especially starting off new, the injury is a big portion of just too much intensity. You know, can your body handle that?
Right.
You know, the running fast.
So, but once you get to the place where you have a good amount of aerobic fitness, then the intensity needs to come in. All right. So, and I think that can be another challenging part. So like when we talk about the easy stuff, people I think are confused oftentimes of what easy feels like, right? So, you know, you said zone 2, right? So zone 2, zone 3, anything that's aerobic. So keeping your effort level low. And, you know, you don't have to necessarily, we always say don't be a slave to anything, right? Don't be a slave to pace or how you feel your heart rate. But you use all those metrics to kind of help determine the, you know, the ultimate goal where you're trying to go. So, but, you know, having the ability to kind of measure what your heart is doing will give you a lot of guidance and some parameters to work within. Mm-hmm. But what I find so often is people like out there and like, yeah, I'm doing an easy run today. And I could talk the whole time and it felt really chill. And then their heart rate was like 165, you know, and they're not 14 years old, you know, they're 40 years old. Yeah. So their heart rate probably needs to be in the 130s or below or something like that. Right. So when you try to convince them, hey, you got to slow down, right? You're doing medium stuff, right? You're doing more tempo style work, and you're not even keeping a steady tempo because you're doing this up and down, and so you're not accomplishing the goal. And so I think you have to establish what easy is. Yeah. Because until you establish what easy really is, you'll never really know what hard is.
Well, and I think when it comes to you mentioned the running, because you used to have to do this with me and another girl that ran with us before. You would always be like, because I always ran faster when I was starting than I thought. Because I'm like, I'm technically talking. I'm fine. But I was talking like this. I'm fine. Yeah, we're great.
Right.
And I actually have some people that I run with now that are training and they'll be talking, but their talking is like very labored. I'm like, what's your heart rate? Like 158. I'm like, yeah, let's bring it down a bit. So, yeah, definitely. I think also letting go of the ego is a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like the vanity runs, right? We talk about that, like doing the vanity runs for Strava or whatever. No, but it doesn't matter if you're in the top 10% on your daily runs, right? If you're not in the top 10% on your races.
Yeah, no one really cares.
Right? If you're not in the top, or actually, if you're in the top 10% on your daily runs, you should be in the top 1% on your races, in my opinion. Because that means, because your race pace should be much faster than your easy pace.
Oh, 100%. Right. Like you said, just having that discipline. What is the purpose of this run?
Yeah.
They don't even care about pace.
No.
It's just whatever the goal is to keep that heart rate down.
Yeah. So once you have a good understanding of what easy feels like, then you can step into the realm of what hard is, right? So here's what cracks me up all the time. So you get somebody and you're trying to work with them or a group of people, and you're like, okay, hey, we're going to slow down. And they're like, oh, it's too slow. Oh my God, it's so slow. If I go any slower, I'm walking, Coach James. I'm like, hey, if you got to walk, you got to walk, you know? And then we go to the track. And we start talking to them about pacing and what I want them to run or what they should be running based off of this, right? And then they look at you like you're an insane person because they're like, you want me to run how fast? Mm-hmm. So they take off running and they're supposed to do 10 sets, right? And they do their first set, you know, and they're supposed to run a 9-minute pace, but they run their first set at 7:30, you know, and then they run their next set at like, you know, 7:45, and they're like, oh man, I'm smashing these things. I'm running so fast. My fitness is better than you thought it was. Oh, okay, great. Then we get to the fourth set. They're like at 8:15. Then we get to the fifth set and they're like at 8:45. Then we get to the sixth set and they're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm like, we still got like 5 more sets to do. What are you talking about? You're done. It's like, yeah, no, it's too hot. It's too hot out here. I can't take it. It's too hot. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you should have been running the pace that we told you to run because the pace you ran was not the correct pace. And so, or they'll do the exact opposite. You'll see them out there and they're running easy.
Yeah.
Or they're running the same pace they always run.
Yeah. Because it's comfortable.
Because it's the pace they're
not
used to running.
scary. There's a few people who come out to the track who definitely could be in a faster pace group, and they just don't want to make that little jump in.
Yeah, I mean, it can be intimidating, but I think that's the thing is you have to establish the hard stuff too, and you have to learn what hard feels like. So I think too often people spend all their time in the gray area, like in the middle, and they don't do enough of the easy like they're supposed to, and then they don't do enough of the hard, or let me rephrase that. They don't do hard at the hard effort.
No, exactly. And like you said, and the downside of that is being in that middle area, you're easy or you're technical easy, which should be, you're not recovering from it.
Yeah.
And then what you think is hard, you're really not pushing the fitness like you should, like being really hard. So you're just in this gray area of almost overtraining, but not pushing the fitness enough. So it's kind of this in purgatory of really just kind of, you're feeling tired, but you're not getting the fitness that you think you should. And that's where a lot of people quit.
So you remember when we were doing like our Thursday workouts and, well, technically, let me rephrase that. Let me try to do this in the right way without hurting anybody's feelings. But remember when I was doing my Thursday workouts and I had invited like 1 or 2 people to come and do them with me because I didn't want to do it alone and I wanted to encourage them to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then those people took it upon themselves to invite other people.
Yes.
You recall this situation?
I recall the situation.
And so we're in there working out. And so I'm like, okay, this is my workout that I'm going to be doing. Right. So I'm focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. But like I give somebody else, the other people that were there had their own workout to do.
Okay.
It was a little bit different than ours.
Okay.
And so as I'm doing my workout, trying to get my stuff done, I'm looking over here and I'm watching them do some variation of the workout that I had given them, right? They're talking, they're over here videoing, they're like freaking selfieing, like it's just like
you had a masterpiece painting.
Exactly.
And they have just taken it and
they were throwing coffee on it.
Yeah. Ripping it up.
Yeah.
And then saying.
True. Like they were drawing like little smiley faces on it and stuff and having a good time.
Defacing it.
And so like I was like, that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to keep going. Don't stop. Right. And so I don't remember like how it really went down exactly, but I'm pretty sure I hurt their feelings because I was like in the throes of battle myself. Right. So my heart rate was up.
I do recall one of them said she would not be coming back because she got uncomfortable.
Good. That's because I don't remember inviting her. I don't remember her being welcome to that space and being asked if she could be there. So as we were doing the workout, the point is that they weren't pushing themselves at the level they were supposed to be pushing themselves, right? And so the point of the workout was to get them into their anaerobic heart rate zone, right? Up into the red for a short period of time. And then they would take a long break and then do it again, right? So they let their heart rate come down and go back up. And then they were basically just kind of coasting through the workout, and like the point I was trying to encourage them with is that it's not that just doing the workout or going through the motions is the point. It's how you go through the workout, right? It's what intensity level. And so the prescribed workout wasn't being like done the correct way, so the other day, actually, I was meeting with someone and, we're talking about a workout, like specifically that had to do with like doing some strength work. And, their goal was to increase strength over the next training block. So I'd given them like a very specific one day where it was like, okay, we're going to do some heavy lifting this day. And so, put the program together, put the plan together, send it to them. So we were having our meeting and I was like, so how's the workouts going? And it's like, oh, well, the one you gave me for my strength workout, I added a couple things to it. And that's the worst thing you can ever tell me, honestly. Not because...
Might as well spit on you.
No, don't spit on me. Don't do that. Not because like my workouts are so great you can't add to them, but the idea in my head was like, okay, so it was so easy that you had to add to it to make it challenging. Okay, so why not just say something to me and let's see how we can adapt it, right? But, busy, whatever. They're busy. They're doing their thing. So I get that. So while we're talking about it, I was like, okay, so what were the weights look like? What were you doing then? They were telling me, I was like, well, that's not what the workout was. I was like, so here's what it should have been, right? And I was like, I want you like 80, 90% of your 1 rep max. I want it so heavy that when you try to do, say, 5 reps, when you get to rep 3, you need to take a little break because it's that heavy. I want, I want you when you're pushing the sled, if it's supposed to be to failure, I want so much weight on that thing that like you might push it 10 feet and you feel like you have to take a break. Like that's how heavy I want it, right? So I don't want it where you're usually at it. We're talking about progressive overload. And so they're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Well, that changes the whole workout. It completely changes it, right? So instead of putting 110 on the deadlift, you're putting 225 on the deadlift.
Oh yeah, that'll change it.
Those are two completely different numbers, and they drastically change, the point of the workout. And so I think that's what a lot of people do when they're programming. Maybe they don't program, but when they're doing their workouts, is they do something that they've always done or that's similar to their comfortable place, and so they can, I don't know, maybe feel good about themselves, feel good about the workout, or feel like they're doing something challenging. But it doesn't actually get them to the place they want to go. So if you're going to do that 20%, if you're going to do that hard stuff, quote unquote hard stuff, well, you need to do it specific to what the event is you're trying to do. So an example, there's, several different workouts, different runs. So specifically talking about running, you've got like short interval stuff, you got long intervals. Short intervals are really anything under 600 meters. So 600s, 400s, 500s, 200s, whatever. Those are considered short interval sets. You've got long interval sets. And so those are longer distance. So 800 meters, so like say 2,000 meters of running without stopping. You've got your threshold and tempo runs. So those are extended efforts where you're doing them for minutes on a, 15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever. You've got race pace efforts where maybe you're running your 10K or maybe you're running your marathon or your half marathon. And then there's variations of different progressive runs where maybe you run half marathon for a couple miles, 10K for a mile, 5K for a half mile. So you're progressively getting faster. So there's all different kinds of workouts you can do to create, the atmosphere or the environment to train the system you're trying to train. And so if you look at what the event is, so we'll say HYROX. Okay. What would you say HYROX, what kind of effort would you say HYROX is?
That's a race. That's a threshold. That's a go effort. That's not an easy effort.
Okay. So let's say if it's a threshold effort.
I would not want to do that twice.
Okay. So your lactate threshold basically is an effort you can sustain for about an hour before you have a major drop off. Mm-hmm. 60 to 90 minutes is kind of the general rule, but for an hour, we'll say for the normal bear, before you see like a significant drop off in your performance, right? So you have a buildup of lactate in your body, which is just waste, right? So it builds up. Your body can't flush it because you're not getting enough oxygen to recycle it and convert it back into energy again. And so if that is the race is a very lactate specific event, well, what does that probably mean you need to train?
You need to train your lactate.
Your lactate threshold.
Yeah.
Okay. So the types of runs or workouts you would do would be like long interval sets. You would do maybe tempo or threshold efforts. Okay. And how I would do those is completely different probably than what you might think. So it's like trying to do a simulation every week thinking you're going to get better at HYROX. Yeah. That's not how it's going to work. So just running threshold efforts is not going to get you better for HYROX. It's just not. So it might help you a little bit in the beginning. You might see some results, but it's not going to get you there because technically your threshold effort is somewhere between your 10K and your half marathon effort. Okay. And so if you can sustain, say your half marathon effort for 25 or 30 minutes, well, that's great. But HYROX is going to be like an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be able to put that back to back to back to back to back, right? So that means not only do you need to train at that pace, but you need to probably train a little bit higher because if you watch in HYROX, you're not just going to use your lactate threshold. You're also going to use your anaerobic.
Yeah.
You're going to get into the red.
And you're going to be under fatigue too. Your legs are going to be, torched from the sleds and all the movements.
Right. And what's probably going to happen is you'll be in your lactate threshold for the runs. And then your heart rate will come down a little bit as you go through the ruck zone. Then you'll go into the station and your heart rate's going to spike and it's going to go up into your anaerobic. And then you get out of it and then it's going to come back down because you just thought you were about to die. And then you go back into your lactate threshold. So you're basically going from threshold to anaerobic, threshold to anaerobic, threshold to anaerobic over and over and over and over again. And the people that haven't trained not only their lactate threshold, but also their anaerobic are going to suffer significantly somewhere probably right around the burpees. Yeah. And they're going to fall off huge. Yeah. So you have to train both of those systems.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with getting in that anaerobic zone, it can feel very, very scary and like just it's so uncomfortable. You almost feel like something's wrong. So I think mentally people like, you go into that fight or flight mentality if you're
Yeah.
not sure what to do, and that's when people start to ease out.
Yeah, slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah. So I think understanding like how to work your way through it and progress through that. And so your short interval stuff, that's going to be more like your aerobic workouts, right? So you're running or moving at a much faster pace for a short duration of time. And oftentimes you would do a double rest, right? So like we would call it like a 1 to 2, at least 1 to 1, but 1 to 2 would be better. And so if it takes you a minute to run, then that means you would take at least a minute, but more than likely it would be better if you took a 2-minute rest because you want to be fully recovered before you start again.
Okay, so you want to be able to push that,
exactly,
match that pace.
Exactly. And if you're not recovered enough, if you don't give yourself enough time to recover, your heart rate's already elevated, you're probably going to end up slowing down. So you want to be fully recovered before you go out and do it again, right? So on the anaerobic stuff, you want to go short duration, max rest. Short duration, max rest. And so that is a really great workout that you would mix in small portions of your training blocks somewhere to kind of help train that anaerobic system. Your lactate threshold could be anything from a long interval to like a threshold or a tempo effort, tempo run, right? So maybe you start at 800-meter repeats and then, throughout the training blocks, maybe you build to, 1,000-meter repeats or 1,200-meter repeats or mile repeats. While simultaneously eventually working up to maybe doing like a 15-minute run without stopping. So what you're doing is you're developing the systems that you're going to be using for an event, for a race. So if you're training for something like a half marathon, well, that's going to be a very lactate specific threshold as well. But you're going to be out there without stopping for a long time.
Hour and a half to 2 hours plus.
Yeah, probably the average person over 2 hours.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be running for that, well, you definitely need to be training your lactate threshold. So whereas, yes, lactate threshold training would be good for HYROX.
Yeah.
It's more specific probably for stuff like half marathon and marathon because of the extended period of time you're going to be running without having to stop.
Yeah.
So, same thing with marathon, doing tempo runs or threshold runs or, maybe doing some race pace efforts on your long run. Those are going to be really, really good ways to incorporate that 20% to help you get to where you want to go. So often what people will do is whatever pace they run, usually that's their race pace. So if they always run 9 minutes, no matter what, it's a 9-minute pace, right? Well, I'm trying to run a sub-2 half marathon or I'm trying to run a sub-4 marathon. So I'm going to go out and run a 9:07 pace. What's your pace that you're going to be running? 9:07. That's what I always run. On your easy runs? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that for like 8, 9, 10 miles.
One speed.
Can you do it for 26.2? We're going to find out. So, but I think it's important to make sure that you understand, like there's this large parameters of pacing that we want to work within. And each group kind of has its place. And so whereas like for HYROX, maybe for our 20%, maybe 15% of it is training our lactate threshold and maybe 5% of it is training our anaerobic capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I love the fact I love one of the reasons I love these numbers is because it makes it very finite. And so if I know I'm running, 20 miles a week, and I know that I'm operating off the 80-20 principle, that means I can get around 4 miles of speed work. And if I'm training for HYROX, well, then that means probably 3 miles of that is going to be like some sort of threshold effort. And maybe 1 mile of that, or maybe a mile and a half of that is going to be like anaerobic work. So maybe what I'm doing is I'm going out and I'm running really fast and then I'm coming in and doing something compromised, right? Or I'm doing some burpees or some sled push or something, right? And then I go do it again. So maybe 1 to 2 miles of my running every week centers around like getting my heart rate way up, running under load or running compromised, and then the other 3 miles or whatever, 2.5 miles I'm running every week is going to be maybe more steady or more very specific to, specifically training like that lactate threshold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like doing not say sims, but kind of like our HYROX when we start doing the movements on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like doing the, running, sometimes we'll sandwich them, run a fast lap, exercise, fast lap, and then take a break. But you always, push I think, getting a base, You know, if you're starting out new, let's if you say you don't have any races to go off of, maybe just getting out there and doing like a little 1 mile time trial.
Okay.
See, I think that's just gonna get you some data there, see how hard you can push for, and then get that mile time and just to kind of work off of that.
Okay.
And then, you know, if you push 7-minute miles, like, oh wow, you have some good speed. If you're pushing, you run it and you do 9-minute mile, then you can start basing. Obviously you can't do that for a marathon or a half marathon, whatever your race is, or 5K. Then you kind of go somewhere number, almost like work yourself back, like how you talked to was it last week about the training blocks.
Okay.
Have a set period, and how can I work to this goal there.
Okay.
So you'll at least have some information. Okay, I ran a 9-minute mile. Let me maybe start pushing some tempo work at let's try 10:30, and can you hold it?
Okay.
And that'd be a kind of good initial way.
So do something to establish some sort of foundation, some sort of like parameters to work in.
Yes.
Right. And to kind of establish, what's the effort look like? What's the paces? Know your zones.
Yes.
What your heart rate zones are. Maybe the RPE, rate of perceived effort.
Yeah.
Like understand that. So basically get some sort of some place to start from.
Yeah. Like RP, how hard does that feel to you?
Yeah. Was it an 8? Was it a 9? And understand that if it's going to be in the 20%, it probably should be over an 8.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's a good one. All right. What else? What do you think, Lauren?
I'd say write it down like a schedule. That way you're not just doing guesswork of which days are your hard efforts and which days are your easier efforts. So if you're just showing up to the gym and you are coming in with no plan, you could end up making Monday, Tuesday, both hard efforts back to back.
Okay.
Because you're not thinking about it. You're just going in and kind of going with the workout. And maybe you're basing it off of halfway through your workout, how you're feeling. Like, oh, I want to load it up today. I feel pretty good. So I think create it like a schedule where you're giving yourself maybe an easy day in between and stick to that. So, you're not overdoing it. You're not getting some surprise hard efforts in there on accident. You are sticking to what you have written down.
Okay. So organize.
Stay organized.
Organize the hard efforts.
I think to piggyback off what she said, just exactly what she said, and then what you said earlier is calculate how much mileage you have to play with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just exactly write it down. You're doing, 20 miles, you have 4 miles. Like, okay, how to break that down. Like I said, write it down so you know exactly how much 20% you have to play with as far as mileage.
Okay. So schedule that based off of exactly a very finite number, a real number, and then organize it so that it's not stacked up.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you can think of?
If you have no idea what you're doing, and we say this a lot, but I think it really is worth the investment. If you have no clue what you're doing and don't know how to plan it, find someone who does.
Okay. Get some advice.
Seek resources.
Seek help.
I mean, I had a client last night. We ran our threshold run.
Yeah.
We started off, and the benefit. This was our kind of peak week. We're doing 25 minutes.
Okay.
I was like, all right, you pace it.
Were we all doing? What were we all doing? 25-minute tempo run or threshold or something, or was it just easy one?
No, threshold.
Threshold. Okay.
This is our third week. I was like, all right, you pace it. I was running, and I was like, yeah, I think we're a little hot.
Okay.
The goal was 9:45.
Okay.
I looked down. We're doing about 9:20.
Yeah.
And her watch messed up.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it's
like really messed up.
No, it was really messed up.
Oh, okay.
Like her pace was showing like 11 minutes.
Oh.
Hey, yes, and I was like,
something wasn't calculating right.
Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we're hot. I'm comfortable with my watch, and I felt the pace too. And I was like, "What's your heart rate?" It was like 178.
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, let's ease it back
for this. Yeah.
Ease it back," and we got into pace, and her fitness was good enough that she was able to recover, and we hit our paces kind of deal.
Okay.
So that was, with a coach, I was able to coach her through the kind of effort and, talk her through the whole, pacing through that, and then doing negative splits of kind of running it and learning how to kind of control yourself by not going out super hot.
Yeah. Damn. Coach Carlos and Coach Lori, man, they go above and beyond, man. They go and do all their runs with their clients. They're going and doing the easy runs to help them stay easy. They go and doing the fast runs with them.
That's it.
I mean, honestly, for me, going to run with some of these people, I'm like, yeah, you're doing your fast effort, and this is helping me stay in my like easy effort. So I'm just getting my miles in.
Yeah, so
easy.
It must be. Oh my gosh, y'all are better than me. Like
we put equipment up for people, pull it out.
I know, man. Setting up their sleds.
Extra effort.
My gosh, dude. Full service. Come see Coach Carlos here at GC Fitness, Coach Lauren. They'll do half the workout for you.
Just like getting the stuff out.
All right. So I think a good one as well would be to not overdo it. Right. So think quality over quantity.
Mhm.
So, rather than doing several medium efforts, do one or two hard efforts.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in being opposite ends of the spectrum to make improvements. So in other words, either really easy or really hard, and staying out of the middle as much as possible. You're going to do that sometimes. You do need to be in the middle, but it needs to be very, very, very rare. And so being on opposite end of the spectrum and being very specific in the things that you're doing. So when I say don't overdo it, I think people. So obviously we're running podcasts. We talk about running all the time. Running is a big part of HYROX. But when people think of HYROX, I think they really separate the running from the movements. And so, okay, I need to learn to be a better runner. So they go out and run 1 or 2 times a week. And one of those runs is like hard, like a fast run. And then one of those runs is a long run. And then they go and do a bunch of volume in the gym, pushing sleds and wall balls and lunges and stuff like that. And so, not realizing that basically what they're doing nonstop is they get in their long run and their hard run. Those are 2 hard efforts, especially if you're new to running, right? Someone who's got, 40, 50 miles a week under their belt for an extended period of time doing a 10-mile long run, that 10-mile long run is no longer a hard effort. They've probably learned how to keep their heart rate so low. It's like they've done it so many times, their body's adapted to it. You can go run 10 miles. I mean, I have athletes right now that they do 8-mile recovery runs. Okay. For majority of people training for HYROX, 8 miles is more than a long run they're probably going to run.
Yeah.
So, depending on the person, the distance and the effort can easily be recovery, even if it's a longer distance. So, but what they'll do is they'll go do that long run, and that long run's a hard effort because it's the longest distance they've ever run. Then they'll go run a short effort that's a speed work or something like that. And that's supposed to be a hard effort. But then they spend every day in the gym doing threshold set like EMOMs and friggin', threshold efforts on the skier and the rower with like burpees and
It's almost like Sims kind of deal.
constantly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so realizing that it's really about like that 80-20, I like to use it for everything.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get in there and they're like, well, I just did a run. So it's totally different. And they think a hard run is very different than going to the gym and pushing hard, like heavy weight.
Yeah.
Like they think their body registers it entirely different. Like, no, it's still a lot on your body. A long run or like a really fast run, it still takes a toll just as it would if you were lifting weight.
Right. So if you think about it like this, if I go out and do a 3-mile run, it's probably going to take me 24 to 30 minutes, depending on how much the drills, how fast or slow I'm running, how good the weather is. How many people do you know will go to the gym and spend 24 to 30 minutes working out in the gym?
You go for an hour or longer.
Right.
I would say just 24 to 30 minutes. Yeah. Oh, not a lot.
Nobody's going to the gym for 30 minutes.
No.
It's a waste of time. You ain't getting nothing done in 30 minutes.
No.
But if I go out and do an easy run, an easy conversation pace run when my heart rate's where it's supposed to be, it's probably going to take me less than 30 minutes to go do that for 3 miles. Right. And so understanding that easy effort was very beneficial because I'm building my aerobic capacity. Well, is it possible to think that you could go to the gym and do some strength workout or maybe an anaerobic workout or something like a HIIT workout or something, and it'd be beneficial as well, even though it only lasted 30 minutes?
100%.
So understanding that there is benefit from not spending hours upon hours at the gym. So you can take a workout. I can take any workout. You give me a workout. I don't care what the workout is. And I can take that workout and make it either easy or crazy hard. And it wouldn't be that hard to do. Either I change the reps, I change the weight, I change the intensity, how fast I want you to go through it.
The rests.
Take the rest up or down, and all of that will change the intensity level of that workout or how hard or easy that workout is. And so understanding that as a whole, we want to look at our training plan as very holistically. And so I like to count not just mileage, but I also count efforts. So every time I run, that's an effort. If I ride the bike, that's an effort. If I lift weights, that's an effort. Everything is an effort. And so if I'm doing 10 efforts a week, well, if I'm operating off the 80-20 principle, what does that mean?
2 efforts hard.
That means only 2 of those efforts should be hard. So if one of those efforts is like some sort of speed run or something like that, well, then if I'm going to be in the gym and I'm going to be hard, well, that would be my second one. That means every other effort I have needs to be pretty low key.
Yeah.
That would blow that. I think right there, I said that and people were like, nope.
Can't be.
You're not going to get in shape doing that.
You're losing fitness.
There's no fitness in that.
Yeah.
Right. But what happens is that when you make sure that each workout has a purpose behind it and you have quality sessions instead of trying to have a bunch of sessions, well, you're actually like not so fatigued that when it is time to go hard, you can actually go hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of athletes go through this cycle of they were just starting off. They go hard. They feel like crap. Something starts, maybe not injury, but their body just finally tells them they have to stop. So they stop for 3 or 4 days because they've worn themselves to a pulp.
Right.
And then they just start that cycle again.
Yep.
And it's just a continuous cycle. Really no fitness. I mean, whatever fitness they kind of gain, their body is just, they can't, it's just too much stimulus. They're not adapting to it.
Sure.
It's just overloading the body where they're breaking down the body and it's never repairing.
Right.
And it's just a vicious cycle, just continuing week after week. And they're just like, there is no easy efforts.
Right.
As the runs are hard, the workouts are hard, and it's just the volume is just too much for them to handle versus if they just eased it back, they could work out for 6 weeks and then be like, their fitness would be, twofold where they were at.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So what ends up happening is they don't ever actually get any great fitness because they're constantly having to stop the progression.
I trained an athlete. She came to our Sunday track. It was a hard effort.
Yeah.
And it was a one-on-one session. The next day, all we did is a lot of TRX stuff.
Okay.
Upper body. And she was like, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. This is, and she was like, okay, cool. And I was like, yeah, you're not supposed to, this is exactly pretty much what I do. Like the next day. Especially when we do the HYROX. So just get the body moving, nothing really strenuous, like to, a little bit of core work, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, people seem to think that unless you leave like feeling trashed, it wasn't beneficial. Yeah. And there's a lot of fitness that can come from being deliberate, working on specific things, even if it's a low intensity. Yeah. So, I think what people get caught in the trap of, and we've talked about this before, but people get caught in the trap of comparing themselves to other people or trying to measure up to what other people are doing. And so, I actually have had several athletes tell me, they're like, well, I know you're doing this, or I know you're doing that. I'm like, okay, well, some of that is true. It's probably not all of that is what you think, but even if that's the case, I've been doing this now for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've been consistent for a very long time. So what is easy for me is hard for you. There's not one workout that I ever assign anybody. I don't ever, like when I do a Monday night class or a Wednesday night class, there's not a workout I've ever assigned that I have not gone through myself. So I've done that workout multiple times, probably at different levels or variation. And so, if I'm assigning to you, I know what it's like, and I may have to adapt it a bit to meet the goal for your level, and so like I literally gave them the exact same workout that I did like last week. I gave the group of ladies this workout that I did. They went in to do it and they were challenged. I don't think it killed them, but they were challenged, but they didn't do as many reps as I did. The weight wasn't even close to what I was doing. And it still took them like, I think 10 minutes longer than it took me to do it. So that's not to say that I'm amazing and they're not. The point I'm making is that for me, that particular workout was challenging. But if I gave them that workout, it doesn't become challenging for them. It may be too much just because we're in two different levels, two different places of fitness. Because I'm running 40 plus miles a week and they're doing like 15 miles a week, because I'm doing 15 efforts a week and they're doing like 8 efforts a week. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. If they're only doing 15, I'm just guessing they're probably newer.
Yeah.
And if we went to your Garmin and looked at your yearly history, you're probably averaging 30 miles a week.
Right.
That's a long history that your body has been adapted to that load.
Right. So doing the whole comparison thing, I think, is a mistake, and you do yourself a disservice. So what you have to do is you got to kind of compare yourself with where you are, where you've been, and then make those adaptations. And so I try to make sure that 80% of my efforts every single week are easy. So 80% of them are easy. and then 20% are hard. So on average, I do anywhere from 18 to 20 efforts a week. Okay. Now, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 of those efforts, most people are like, that's not an effort. What are you talking about? So I ride the bike like 4 times a week for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. And it's like super easy, super chill, right? Well, most people would probably not count that as an effort.
We're moving.
All right. They would not count that. They would be like, oh, this dude's just warming up for his workout or something like that. Right. Well, that's an effort. Right. I also like at least 3 times a week. Well, at least 2 times. Let me not lie. At least twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, I do like a 15 to 20 minute, like kind of stretch session. Right. Most people probably wouldn't consider that an effort.
I was just going to ask you about that.
But that's an effort.
Yeah.
I'm moving, blood is flowing. But that is a very easy effort. And so the more efforts I do, well, then the more volume I have, the more hard stuff I can do. And so if I'm doing 20 efforts every single week with a lot of like high volume, easy stuff, well, then that opens up my bandwidth so that now I can do 3, 4 hard sessions a week. But even with that, I'm going to keep those pretty finite, pretty short. And I'm not going to they're not going to be 3-hour sessions. I might have one session that might last over an hour, but the other 2 may only last 20 minutes, or they may only last 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But they're meant specifically to train, whatever the energy system is that I'm trying to train.
No, it makes sense. It's kind of like what you said, that the efforts are deliberate.
Yes.
You're just hitting it hard and being done.
Yeah.
Not just overextending. Kind of what you said is each workout is leading into the next one.
Yeah.
So it's like your easy stretch workout. I'm sure you follow that by a hard effort the next day, most likely. I'm just kind of guessing. Like I said, the long runs, how it's all, the training block should just be like, one workout leading into the other.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. So I think what people can do is, number one, I think they can give themselves a little bit of leeway and understand that every time you go to the gym, you don't need to be there for 3 hours or 2 hours or an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a waste if it's deliberate, and you're not just, what are you doing at the gym today? I don't know. I might do some squats, maybe some cleans. It's leg day. So, I'm going to work these legs. What kind of reps you looking at? What kind of volume? I don't know. I'll just see how I feel today, so there's no plan, right? No progression, right? And that's what I see probably more than anything else, is that without the plan, there's also not a progression. And so from week to week, as part of your 20% plan, it should get more challenging each week.
Yes.
So what I mean by that, so I have one athlete, and we're working on, hitting some pretty big goals. And, I don't know, maybe we'll say 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I was giving them 20-minute tempo runs where they were supposed to run for 20 minutes without stopping. And they would hit the paces. They were hitting the paces. And the paces were, honestly, the paces were faster than they've probably ever ran before. It was different. It was a different kind of training for them because they had really mastered the art of the volume. They'd gotten really good at running a lot of volume really easily, but they really hadn't spent a ton of time like doing like large chunks of speed work. And they needed to take that next step for them.
Yeah.
So I was asking them to run paces they weren't used to. So they would hit the paces, but what would happen is 10 minutes in, a 20-minute tempo run, they might stop, right? Because they were hurting and they felt like they were going to slow down. So they would stop, take a little break, and then they would go and finish it out, right? So they broke up the threshold run, the tempo run. And so we worked on that, over a period of several months, and they got better at it. Maybe we do a long effort or whatever and say, okay, we're going to run 6 miles of your long run at goal race pace, and they take off and they do it. But then like mile 4 or 5, they'd stop because their, heart rate they felt like it was too high or they were struggling. So they'd stop, kind of get their bearings and then take off again, And so, I was like, hey, if you slow down, that's fine. Slow down. Just don't stop.
Okay.
Right. It's okay. If you can run 5 out of your 6 miles and hit the pace and you fall off the last 10 or 15 seconds, what we're going to do is we're going to develop past that. Because each week, as we add those miles, well, this week, maybe you do 5 and you fall off on the 6th one. Well, next week you'll do 6 and you'll fall off on the 7th one. And next week you'll do 7, you'll fall off on the 8th one. So each week you're building your confidence and realizing, well, I did this, so let me try to do 1 mile extra, right? So you're building the confidence and you eventually it clicks and you realize I can do it and you figure out a way through it. But if you're not progressing, if you're not adding load, weight, volume, intensity from week to week, well, then the adaptation is not going to happen because you're not doing that overload and you're just going to stay where you're at. right? And so, right now we're doing some pretty hard workouts. We're doing like a double threshold day. So like in the morning, they're doing like,
That sounds awful.
yeah.
Sounds so terrible.
In the morning, last month, they were doing the 25-minute threshold effort, right?
Twice.
And then in the afternoon, they did another one.
Oh,
Right. And so this training block or whatever, each week they were getting better and better. Right. And I mean, they hit it every week, but there were some times where like the second session was better than the first session. Right. Like where they maybe struggled in the morning, but then they rallied and got it in the afternoon. But like the last one they sent me, it was a work of art. Like it was so good. And this was during peak week. So that meant they had the biggest amount of volume on their legs for the week. They had the hardest workouts, right, for the week, and they smashed both of those threshold efforts. So they were doing almost triple on that one day what they were doing just like 6 or 7 months ago. So they were smashing it, right? But that only happened because we started very small. We built confidence, we built strength, we built their threshold, we worked on form and all that good stuff. And now they've gotten to the point where, like, if I gave them that workout would be easy. That would not be a hard workout for them, right? That would be like a taper week workout, right? In fact, that is their taper week workout, is they're just doing like 1 20-minute threshold run.
nice. That's nice.
Just kind of like talking about this, how you progressed, and that's another thing on the 20% is looking at how it progresses during that 4-week cycle.
Yeah.
So it is a hard effort, but then you want to look to increase it each week.
Yes.
So kind of like what we talked about, into the, would that be macro cycle, the week or the month cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and then looking at that whole picture, like you said, the 4-week training block, build, and then kind of deload. So that's part of it, that increasing the intensity of that 20% as well, versus just doing that same hard workout 3 weeks in a row, like you said, plateauing.
Right. Well, and then, like I said, that's the good thing about having a good coach, right? That has some experience and has studied and, has some education under their belt, is because, like you said you were running threshold runs right now. What are your threshold runs you're doing?
Right. I'm basically just kicking them back up. So like they're at 8:40.
No, I don't care about the pace.
Oh,
what is the distance? What is the duration? What is it?
Oh, like anywhere from like 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay. So that's a threshold effort, right?
Yeah.
Starting out at 15, I guess you go to 20 the next week and 25 the next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
25's real fun.
Okay. So if you do that, that's awesome. That's great. Okay. But eventually that should not be hard for you.
Yeah.
Because you've already progressed, right? So there's got to be a different progression, whether it's maybe you do 15 minutes and then you try to finish fast, right? So maybe you do 15 at threshold effort and then and then you add 3 minutes on the end of that at, like, say, 5K effort.
Yeah.
And then you keep adding to that each week, or you do threshold intervals where maybe you do a 10-minute, run really slow and recover, and then do another 10 minutes. And then next week you do 15 minutes, run really slow and do 15 minutes, right? Then you do 20 minutes and you do run real slow and do 20 minutes. So you're adding volume or additional intensity. Maybe you're doing 1,000-meter repeats, but you're doing 12 sets of them. Okay. Where, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio where, you rest for half the time you're out there running.
No, one of the workouts I really loved, I felt built a lot of confidence for myself, that you gave me was, for the HYROX, was starting fast. You had my tempo run. You had me start off the first, like, I want to say mile was like a fast paced mile.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I kind of settled into my HYROX pace.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like a fast start, back down, and then a fast finish.
Yeah.
That was a really good kind of, come race time, I felt good. Even if I did go out a little bit hot, I felt that confidence. Okay, I know I can ease back down, not blow up,
right,
and then still have the fitness or capacity to finish fast at the end.
So the point of that workout was, okay, I know my athlete. I know how my athlete is. Okay, so here's what we're trying to teach him. We're trying to teach him, number one, so your phosphagen system is a system basically that is about 10 to 15 seconds or so of energy that you have, that there's no waste byproduct, right? So you're not having like lactate buildup or anything like that. It's just like free fitness.
ATP, right?
Right? So you take off, it's ATP-CP or something like that, right? So when you take off, there's no byproduct. So anytime I run in my lactate threshold, there's waste byproduct, and that builds up eventually. And if you go out in that too quickly, or you go in anaerobic, then you're going to blow up, you're going to slow down. Well, within the first 10 to 15 seconds using your phosphagen system, there is no byproduct. So you can use that. But you also have to learn that's only 10 to 15 seconds. I need to slow my butt down after this, right? You got to settle in. So knowing, okay, some things that I can work with my athletes, number one, teaching them control, discipline, how to use the energy systems effectively. And so that was kind of the point of that workout was, okay, you're going to push yourself in the beginning for a very short duration of time. Then you're going to settle into your pace. Now you've hit the pace. Now you're going to finish strong. And so it teaches you self-control. It teaches you discipline. It gives you the confidence, obviously, that you can hold particular paces, right? Yeah. Whenever you want to, while also developing your aerobic capacity, your lactate threshold. As we increase those, right? Because we increased them.
Yeah.
Right. We increased them. It should have, and it did obviously, build your confidence in your ability to not only run the pace, but also run the pace when you wanted to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be the benefit of like working with, a coach or maybe someone that knows more, maybe just doing research, is that, at a certain point, you're going to want to adapt those runs. So you have to have variability in those runs after a certain amount of time. And if you understand that, the purpose of like a short interval or a long interval or a lactate threshold run or, a HIIT workout, if you understand the purpose of those, then it makes it much easier to create, beneficial workouts that you can progress upon. Right. So instead of just like, this is, and a lot of runners do this. A lot of runners, this is the run I'm doing. Right. This is like, I'm doing 800 repeats times 6, 3 minutes rest.
Staying every time.
That's what I do, right? I'm doing the Yasso 800s, right? I'm going to go out and run 800 at my marathon pace or whatever the pace is. And I'm going to do 8 of them or 16 of them or whatever the number is. That's what I'm doing, right? Or I'm doing 1,000 meter, about 2 times 2, 800 times 2, 400 times 2.
Yeah.
And that's my marathon training fast stuff. That's like less than 3 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
Of speed work.
Yeah.
And you're half of it, you're training. If you're doing it the way you're supposed to, that means you're supposed to be speeding up as those intervals get shorter.
Yeah.
So half of it you're doing in an anaerobic capacity level, which isn't even a system you're going to be using in a marathon. So that's not what you should be running. Maybe toward the end of your training block, like maybe the last few weeks or something, you would do that. But that should not be a staple workout for somebody running a marathon, in my humble opinion. Someone who's coached people to PR. But
BQs and all the glory.
So that's what I'm saying is just like understanding that the quality is very important, but also being extremely deliberate in the workouts that you're doing in that 20% to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck.
Agree 100%.
Right. So, and then I would say the other thing, or maybe the last thing, is to prioritize recovery.
Yes.
Making sure that you're recovering properly, whether it's through like the easy runs or swimming or jogging or doing yoga or stretching or whatever.
Anything.
Yeah. So foam rolling, all of that stuff is going to be super important because, as you're developing throughout the process, muscles get tight. Muscles are attached to tendons. They'll get tight. You'll feel joint pains. You'll feel, aches and pains and things like that. And it could feel very much like an injury, but that could all be very easily stopped simply by regularly foam rolling, regularly stretching, or doing some sort of ART, active release, or doing some sort of myofascial release, something like that, where you're constantly letting those muscles get out of tension so that it can take tension off of those tendons and off those joints, and allowing those support muscle groups to really do what they're supposed to do rather than be just one solid knot.
I've seen, like, you go on Instagram, you see someone squatting or doing an exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh wow, you that's not even a full squat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like your hips are still not even too parallel, kind of, and I mean they're muscular.
Yeah,
or but you could just tell they're a giant knot.
I mean, look at over 50% of the HYROX people. I mean, most of the people you see doing wall balls should be getting
the mobility is not great.
Oh, yeah. Mobility is not great.
The mobility is so bad because nobody thinks to train mobility.
No. So it's all about intensity. And so, I think honestly, a big part of that recovery is working on the mobility, working on like the accessory work to be able to get deeper into a squat or be able to keep your heels on the ground or keep your posture upright.
Burpees, keeping your hands close to your feet, not having to reach like 4
Ball
feet
down.
in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think all those things, strengthening your core, right? So
Yeah.
and that is one thing I think like
That gets slept on.
nobody does anymore, like realistically and I'm not talking about doing crunches or sit-ups, but like literal strengthening your core, right? So you can have a very strong core and not have abs. Did you know that?
Yes, you have the kind of body fat covering them.
Yeah, you can be a chubby bunny and have a very strong core. And so, but that's only comes from strengthening it, And so your core is, think of it like this. If aerobic capacity is the foundation of your fitness, your core is the foundation of your strength in your body. So the stronger your core is, the better and easier everything else is going to be. It's where your posture is going to come from. It's where your balance is going to come from. It's going to help you drastically in some of those mobile movements you're going to be doing. And so, one of the things that, I'm working with some of the athletes that struggle with wall balls on is specifically core strength, because a lot of the reasons why you lean forward or hip hinge is because if you're upright, you feel like you're going to fall backwards.
Yeah.
So some of that is mobility for sure, but a big portion of it is core strength. You don't have the core strength to hold your body in that position. And so there is no better way to realize you're using your abs than to grab a ball that's way heavier than what you're used to. So when you're throwing a 25-pound ball, a 30-pound ball or whatever, and you're trying to do wall balls with that's
humbling.
Like you can feel your abs literally like tensing up on you, right?
Yeah.
And so, understanding that that's part of your training process as well, is training the entire system, not just one part of it.
Yeah.
Realize that it's all going to add up to doing more wall balls, not just doing heavy wall balls, but it's going to almost like the easy runs.
Yep.
When they do easy runs for so long, and all of a sudden they go run fast, like, oh my God, I didn't know I was capable of that.
It's exactly right.
Capacity now to push harder.
It's exactly right. So that's why we say that like training is very holistic in that it's all together, right? It's not in a vacuum. Each thing should build upon the other thing. So the 20% doesn't do you any good if you're not doing the 80%.
Yeah.
If you switch the two, if you're doing 20% easy and 80% hard, which is probably what most people are doing, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not truly setting yourself up because you're too tired to ever do anything.
Yeah.
So, thinking of it as a complete program and trying to develop the disciplines to hold yourself. I mean, I think it takes more discipline to hold yourself back 80% of the time than to try to go hard.
Oh, 100% agree.
So it's all the sexy stuff, especially with social media. Everybody posts every single workout. They're constantly videoing themselves doing stuff, and it's not impressive. People don't, at least people think other people don't want to see them doing things that aren't cool.
Well, what's unfortunate about that is you're continuing a cycle of encouraging, even if you're not intentionally encouraging, you're encouraging people to keep doing really hard things all the time when they need to probably be going easier.
Right. Which is one of the reasons I actually stopped recording my workouts. One reason was because I felt like people were looking at them and they were like, oh, coach is going hard all the time. Yeah. And so they were like, whatever. The other reason I felt like they were trying to steal my workouts
and just
for free. They weren't. I
don't need to go to training with James.
Yeah. No, that's
or they'd find out when I was supposed to be, when I was working out, and they'd figure out the timelines and they just show up
and invite people
and then not do the workout the way it's supposed to be done. Oh my God. There's nothing worse to me, honestly.
Guys, don't ever just show up to these workouts. One, you'll just be a pariah. You'll never hear the end of it.
No, that actually wouldn't have been the thing. It was the fact that you didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done. If Picasso creates this beautiful work of art, you know what I'm saying?
Then Picasso should also make the instructions very clear.
Oh, Picasso made the instructions very clear.
Confusing, and that might be why certain individuals didn't do it right, because we were very confused.
So here's what I love. They read the title, and then they decide what the workout should be based off the title. But then underneath the title, there's this long description of exactly what to do.
Is it like words and paragraphs?
It is. Yeah, I know.
Confusing.
That's what it is. It's very confusing because there's words I have to read. So did you read it? Well, we scanned it.
That's between 3 people.
So you scanned it or you read it? Well, we just kind of scanned it, but it was so confusing. Okay, well, let me read it real quick. Does that confuse you? Well, when you say it like that,
I have a new online client.
Yeah,
and she does the workouts to a T.
Yeah,
Does the runs to a T.
That's a joy.
I'm like, bless your heart.
Bless them.
I was like,
may the Lord bless them.
Yes, may the Lord bless your heart.
May his favor shine upon them.
This old man needs no more gray hair.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
I'd say right now, if you showed up when I was doing a workout, uninvited, to do your workout, and you did it the way it was prescribed, I would have zero problems with it. I'd be so excited. I'd be like, look, I was like, you go, girl. Man, that makes me so proud. I'm excited for you. Thank you. Thank you. But then when you show up, and then you have the audacity to disrespect me,
disrespectful,
and do whatever you want to do with the workout, then the Picasso thing is like, you're not taking my Picasso. What you're doing is you're drawing your own piece of artwork, trying to make it look like mine, and it's just some stick figures and some freaking finger paints. You made a turkey. You made a turkey hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turkey hand, and I was over here drawing freaking peacocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see it in my head.
I'm not even gonna argue because that was actually a really funny analogy.
Yeah,
it's popsicle sticks.
That was a good
one.
Popsicle
sticks and fingers.
So good one.
But yeah, I mean, it happens. I get it. Like, I think people don't. They're like, oh, they can't be that hard, or it's not hard enough, right? And then maybe sometimes they don't understand that the goal wasn't for it to be hard.
Yeah.
Right? Or the goal was, I want to murder you.
We want you to feel like you need to question your life.
Exactly. Right. And so sometimes I think you need guidance. So it does help, honestly. I mean, sometimes the online can be harder because you're not there to kind of watch the effort and see, so I have an online client right now. She's up in Minnesota, and, I gave her a few workouts to begin with. And so after she sent it to me a couple times, like, I was like, send me the heart rate data. Like, she would send like, hey, I did the workout, whatever. I was like, well, send me your heart rate data. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not really, the heart rate isn't really matching what we wanted to look like for the effort. I was like, well, why don't you do this? I want you to video yourself doing the workout. And so when she did, she was taking too many breaks, and part of it was just because of the way the gym was set up.
She had to kind of walk.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, so one of the things maybe we can do is let's try to put stuff closer together. Or let's change the workout so that you don't have to like be spread out so much.
Yeah.
So that we can accomplish the mission, right? And we made those little adjustments, and the next week she's like, "Oh my God, that was way different. Like, that was really hard." And then before she was like, "Oh yeah, I had to add this or this or whatever," and I was like, "See, so rest, intensity, weight, all that stuff, we can adapt it just a little bit, and it completely changes the workout." So I think that's what you want to like focus on when you're creating these 20%, is making sure they're accomplishing the mission of training whatever energy system. And once you do the workout, you can go back, look at the data, see how your heart responded, and see, okay, how do I adjust that? Right. And like, if you are doing a workout, let's say it's let's say you're pushing the sled 50 meters or something, and you're doing 30 box jumps or something like that, 50 wall balls, and then you're skiing for like 300 meters or something. Well, when you do the workout next week, we always do blocks, right? So we would do pretty much the same workout for 4 weeks, correct? Yeah. Well, how we would progress that is next week we would either make the weight a little bit heavier, or we would do like 60 meters of sled push and like 50 wall balls, or 50 burpees, right? We would increase that workout by 10% each week.
Yeah, something's coming.
Something's changing. It's going to adapt a little bit to make it harder because you've already done that workout. And for that workout for you to get better at that particular workout, you've got to make that workout a little harder. And then what's crazy is when you go back on week 4 and you go back to the thing you did the first week, it's like, that was an easy workout.
Yeah, you thought it was hard.
And you thought it was hard the first week. And so you see almost immediate results, and you see how your body's progressing through it. So it takes your body about 4 to 6 weeks to adapt to any type of stimulus. So as a good general rule, I think 4 to 6 week training blocks are the way to go. And so that gives you the body the adaptation times necessary. So what does that mean? That means that if you're going to build your volume and do your hard workouts, well, whatever those hard workouts are, they should probably be the exact, for the most part, same workout every week for 4 to 6 weeks. And they just need to progress a little bit each week. So if you're doing a 15-minute tempo run, well, on week 2, it needs to be like a 20-minute tempo run or a 17-minute tempo run. Week 3, it needs to be like a 22-minute tempo run or a 25-minute tempo run. You need to add a little bit of time to that effort. If you're doing intervals, right? Let's say you're doing 10 sets of 800-meter intervals or something like that. Well, maybe that's week 1. Well, week 2, either you are adding an interval and you become 11 intervals, or you lower the rest. So like, let's say you're giving yourself a 3-minute rest. Well, week 2, instead of having 3 minutes, maybe do 2.5 minutes. So you make the workout harder, or you progress through the workout by lowering that rest or by adding a set, right? A very traditional 5K workout, which is a really great 5K workout, is you do 5 to 6 800 meters, and you start out with whatever the rest is. Usually it's 2 to 1. So, if you're doing, say, a 6-minute pace, well, that means you're going to run for 3 minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you run for 3 minutes, you stop, and you would rest for a minute and a half. Okay. Well, the next week you would do the exact same amount of intervals, but now instead of resting for a minute and a half, you only rest for a minute. Then the next week you do the same exact workout, but now instead of resting for a minute, you only get 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
That changes that workout completely. And what you're doing basically is you're lowering the rest, and you're getting closer and closer to what it's going to feel like running that 5K. Because when you run that 5K, you're not getting a break.
Yeah.
So that is a very 5K specific workout, because you're ultimately getting closer and closer to the actual event. So that's, I think, how you want to go about creating these 20% style workouts, in being deliberate and making that plan. So progression is key. Making sure that you're not doing too much.
Be organized.
Right? Making sure you're having quality over quantity. Be organized in it. So make some sort of a plan and have some sort of direction that you're going. Make sure you're prioritizing that recovery and putting in those easy efforts. Make sure you're having plenty of easy efforts. We say 80% across the board, right? So remember, think holistically, not you're doing running is one thing, and then your world of weightlifting is something different. It's all one thing, because it's all affecting your body one way or the other. And I think if you can do that, and if you can focus on that, you're going to see dramatic changes in your fitness. And I think also you're going to see drastic changes in how you enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Sunday is a perfect example. Sunday's been a lot of fun lately, I feel like. And I think people are learning.
I think so. I think they're picking it up finally.
And I think they're kind of getting that concept, kind of like our girl Faith, how she had a team pushing her, the power of what it is to run with a group.
Yeah.
Running with a team to kind of hold you accountable, to challenge you, maybe hold you back when you maybe don't need to be challenged so much.
Yeah.
So that the group effort, I think, pacing each other makes a huge difference in helping you level up. I think Faith Kipyegon said that 100% of him is nothing compared to 1% of the team.
Yeah.
So he is better with a team at 1% than he is 100% by himself. And I'm a firm believer in that. So if you don't already have a team, if you don't have a group of people that you're running with, and I know how runners are, especially you marathon runners, I know how it is with marathon running. You're solo champions. Find a group, whether it's a running group, whether it's a coach or some training group, or when you're out running, get a friend. One of my favorite things to do. What's one of my favorite things to do when I'm on a run, Carlos?
BS, talk.
Talk to people. That's it, right? Yell at people. Howdy. Hello.
Bark.
Sup. Bark. I don't know. Howl. Howl. That's what I got to stop doing that though. But get with a group. It will help you significantly, especially when you're talking about those long runs and those hard efforts, those speed efforts. And it's going to make it a lot more fun too.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the best stories we have out there on the trails running.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We've solved political issues, COVID, personal issues. We've restored marriages. We've helped people start families. I mean, we're over here solving world problems.
You missed our, we're going to do a baby delivery service. I think you missed that one.
I did miss that one.
That was it's a whole nother story there.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't a part of that one. Oh my gosh. We had some major.
Start teaching Lamaze class. Is that a new addition?
No, we were going to have Jess make super babies.
Oh,
yes. So
I was not there.
Does Jess know about her making super babies?
She was right there in the conversation.
Okay. Making sure she's in the loop, and this isn't like some handmaid's tale situation.
I think it was me, Jess, and Tommy. So it's.
I am very curious about this conversation now. This might have to be a Patreon. So, all right, guys. So that's all we have for you guys today. We appreciate you coming in. Remember, check us out on Instagram at Running with James. Also, if you have not done this, so here's the deal. So we actually created a Running with James Instagram account. Yes. So please follow it if you haven't. You may be following me, Coach James. You may be following Lauren at the back. Bohemian. But if you're not following the Running with James podcast on Instagram, please do so. We want to get that up. And that's where we're posting all of our videos, any types of teasers for our YouTube page, for the shoe reviews or training tips. And then also kind of the little segment we have about running with running stories. So you can also check out Coach Carlos at Lowe's 200.
Lowe's 200.
And you'll see those on the screen when I'm talking. So you can support us also on Patreon. I want to thank our newest patron, Fabian. He became a Patreon member just last week. So
awesome.
He obviously is excited to hear about that that uncut stuff.
Okay.
So he was I could, when I saw his name, I was like, I know what this guy's looking for. So if you want to be a supporter of the show, you can go to patreon.com/running with James, get additional content, the stuff that's for TV, and stuff usually that Lauren won't even engage with. That's how intense it is that Lauren won't even talk.
You will see full disengagement.
Yeah.
Like you
just depends on the
if you
conversation.
slow down the video enough, you can see the soul leave the body.
Yeah.
It's just literally she's
balled up in the corner on her phone, just trying not to cry.
Yes. It's well worth the money.
It is. I agree. So you can do that just simply by going to patreon.com. And as always, make sure that you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like it, share it. We always appreciate that. Guys, we appreciate you coming in. Remember, when you change your mind,
You change your life.
Peace out.